Everyone, we are back to the introduction of the Spirits book. Let me share here the screen. We are on item 8 of the introduction. Last week we did only item 7. I believe this week we are going to do a couple, 2 or 3 more, because they are shorter and with not much more than we already discussed. So we discussed last week the opposition to Spiritist ideas. We discussed what Kardec thought about those that were trying to attack Spiritism or trying to oppose, especially in the scientific scholar community. That Kardec explained that for you to be open to understand Spiritism, you need to be able to have an open mind to study and not to come with rejecting as a principle, like himself did, not giving much credit in the beginning to the movement of turning tables, but eventually accepting accepting the invitation to watch the phenomena, and then becoming more interested in studying the phenomena, studying what was behind it. And that's how he approached, and that's how he ended up codifying Spiritism. So what his point that we discussed last week is that, if you have good arguments, you want to listen, you want to discuss, you have an open mind, we'll be open to discuss and to listen. But if you come with preconceived ideas and you reject as a principle, there is nothing much to discuss. So we'll continue a little bit with that on this item 8. Taylor.
We add that studying any belief system, such as Spiritism, which introduces us to radically different and awe-inspiring ideas, can only be successful when done by serious-minded and tenacious individuals, free of prejudices and motivated by an unyielding desire to find the truth. Those who tend to reach a conclusion easily without thorough examination and without employing the proper methodology, order, or attention to detail that is necessary to be successful are not capable of properly studying Spiritist beliefs. Neither are those who, in order to maintain a reputation for being witty, seek to ridicule matters of grave importance, which have been judged to be such by individuals whose knowledge, character, and convictions command respect. Individuals who deem the facts in question to be unworthy of their attention should refrain from studying them. No one would attempt to interfere with their beliefs, and they should respect the beliefs of those who have a differing opinion. The characteristics of a serious-minded and thoughtful study are the method and perseverance with which it is carried out. Is it any surprise that practical answers are not always obtained from spirits in reply to questions that, no matter how serious in content, are randomly asked among a slew of others that are unrelated or irrational? What is more, a question that is highly complex needs to be preceded by various considerations in order to guarantee clarity. Whoever truly wants to research or learn a new science must do so through methodical study, starting at the beginning and following the proper sequence and development of ideas. If a student who is unfamiliar with the most elementary basics of a science asks an ill-conceived question of the most respected professor in the field, could that professor, no matter how kind or compassionate, give a satisfactory answer? This isolated response would be incomplete, and as is so often the case, unintelligible absurd, and contradictory. The same holds true for the relationships that we establish with the spirits. If we are to learn Spiritism, a full course must be completed with them. However, we must select our teachers carefully and work meticulously and persistently. We have said that superior spirits are only attracted to serious-minded encounters where a perfect union of thought and desire for the pursuit of moral excellence must exist. Good spirits are repelled by frivolity and idle curiosity, in much the same way that these characteristics repel reasonable individuals. The road is consequently left open to the hordes of reckless and lying spirits who are always waiting for opportunities to mock us at our own expense. What happens when a serious question is asked under such circumstances? It is answered, but by whom? It is as if you were at a lively dinner party and you suddenly ask questions such as, what is the soul? What is death? Or any other that are equally out of harmony with the tone of such a social gathering. If we want earnest, thoughtful answers, we must be serious and place ourselves in the appropriate situation. Doing so is the only way that we can obtain fulfilling communications. Nevertheless, we must be resolute in the investigations, otherwise the superior spirits will abandon us, just like a professor abandons hopelessly negligent students in his class.
So what Kardec is telling us here is that to be serious, to be committed and to be serious, to take it seriously, like he did, and like any of those that commit to progress and to learn any areas, in any area of study, science, literature, whatever you commit yourself, you have to be serious. Otherwise, you get nowhere. But with Spiritism, as you are communicating with invisible beings, and you cannot really see what's on the other side, most of us, we can only listen to the communications, read the messages, but we cannot guarantee who's on the other side. It's important to take it seriously, because if we take it seriously, the serious spirits will come. And he compares, he talks about the seriousness in building a case. You know, you cannot start asking a very complex question to the spirits if you don't have learned the basics. And he talks about us learning in Spiritism, that it takes time. It takes, we have to dedicate ourselves going, building blocks of learning and of understanding. Spiritism, again, the two basic functions of Spiritism is to educate and to consolate, to provide consolation. Normally, most people come to a Spiritist center in search of help, in search of consolation for something that have happened to them. And for those that watch the program Surviving Death, you see that those that look for those mediums are in search of answers from the loss of their loved ones. So, you know, we all, most of us come to Spiritism because of this reason, because we are struggling in our personal lives. But there are no quick answers. We need to commit ourselves. We need to study, to learn, to try to understand, to make sense of it, to reason, to not accept something because someone is telling us. We have to study to apply ourselves. And that's what Kardec is saying. Let's not ask, quantum physics questions to the spirits if we don't know the basics of physics, because we're going to get an answer that we won't be able to understand. We would have no idea if it's a serious answer or it's a spirit that's mocking us, and there is nothing to do with it. So the idea here is the seriousness of our commitment to Spiritism, to the messages, to the communication with the spirits, but also respecting those individuals that are not interested or that are closed in their own boxes of beliefs. Because if someone is not willing to open themselves to new truths or an open discussion, a discussion with reason, we shouldn't waste our time and theirs. That's what Kardec says, that no one would attempt to interfere with their beliefs, and they should respect of the beliefs of those who have a different opinion. So again, serious-minded encounters will attract superior spirits, will attract serious spirits. If we are partially serious, we have some serious questions, and we have some not so serious questions, we risk having not so trustable spirits coming to us, reckless or lying spirits. So why they wouldn't interfere in a serious meeting? Because the spirits that are in charge of serious meetings do not allow mocking or inferior spirits to be part to disturb. Less evolved spirits are present in all our meetings if they are willing to learn and they are willing to study. Opportunity exists on this side and on the other side. But if the meeting is not serious enough, then we risk having less serious spirits. And he gave an example here. You are having fun at a party, and then you start discussing what happens after we die, what is the soul, what is death. You're going to get people that will try to answer you seriously, and you're going to try to have people that will mock it, or they will make fun of it. So you cannot have a serious discussion with people that have diverse interests and different ideas. Okay. Comments, questions here?
Yeah, I have.
Go ahead.
Do I have the?
Go ahead, Paco. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. Am I correct in saying that then that whoever's a spiritist is kind of elitist because we are committed to study, and most people are not so willing to sit down and have a dialogue about this. They need to be spoon-fed about things. They need to be given answers right away.
Yeah, I wouldn't call
So this is Spiritism is not for the masses, huh?
Spiritism is for those that want to take it seriously. It's not for those that want quick answers.
If we don't want to call it elitist, then let's say it's not for the masses.
I'm not sure. Because you have in Brazil, you have millions of people that go to spiritist centers. Not all of them are committed to study, committed to dedicate themselves, but they follow anyway. So there are always benefits that can be brought. But what Kardec is trying to alert us here is that if you really want to understand the reality of the spiritual life, the reality of our our existence here, why we're here and everything, you have to study, you have to commit. You have to study, take it seriously. Again, he's not saying we have all to become PhD in
understand.
Spiritism, but you know, you cannot ask
I understand.
what happens to the soul after death and expect us to give you, oh, they are on the other side, a different plane of existence. That is not enough. That's not an answer that will satisfy. And you know, going back to the series after surviving death, I think what lacks in the series is really a more serious study of what happens. What else? Because they are trying to communicate with the loved ones that passed. They have these communications. They talk about reincarnation, which is a beautiful chapter. They talk about near-death experiences, but it's very, for us Spiritists, it's very shallow. It doesn't go deeper. It's a wonderful series, worth watching. But you know, we know better. We go beyond. We're not here discussing if there is life after death. If we're here studying Spiritism, life after death, it's a basic. Without it, we are wasting our time here, right? So
Yeah.
Yes and no, Paco. I think that Spiritism is for those that want to take it seriously and dedicate themselves. But you know, you can it can take some time, and it's not a problem. You can start just taking lightly and go deeper later. You know, it's not really. You know, we're not going to kick out people that are not taking that are not committing to study. You know, as long as they are here and trying to learn something. You know, that's what's important. Elmo, anything else here?
Yeah, when you look at the at the philosophers of the old Greece and you see the stories of spirituality in Buddhism, you see that the masters, the teachers, they were very careful picking their disciples. Was not like, oh, I want to be a philosopher and I'm gonna join Socrates. I want to be a philosopher and I'm gonna join masters whatever in China. No, they would be carefully selected. There was indeed an intellectual elite on that group. Could you say that that is the same with Spiritism? Or it's an open door for anyone who wants to come in and study and work seriously?
Mhm.
So
Very good.
usually,
Very good.
so usually people says, you know, or you label us elitist, but often it's something that comes from outside in. Is a third party labeling us as elitist, and I have heard that before. But it's not from within in. We are open to everyone. You are not to create an elite, but you want to come and study seriously? Join us. You want to come and don't, as João said, and don't want to study seriously, come and join us as well. We're not going to lock the door, going to close, not let anybody out who wants to come in. So I personally don't think there is elitism in Spiritism. But I would say that that is reserved for those who have reached a level of freedom, intellectual freedom, that allows them to pursue the answers for those questions that we all have, but some people are still too attached to other concepts that does not allow them to liberate themselves to go and seek to those answers.
Thanks. Renato?
Yeah, it's true. I agree. I agree. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I only participate on treatment meetings and assistance meetings. So I'm assuming, you know, on those meetings, yeah, you know, you have elevated spirits taking care of everything because of the nature of the work that is done. Do you still have spiritists nowadays meetings where you can, ask questions and, and then follow that class that you might bring that the meeting can, attract not so elevated spirits in that sense?
Most centers that I know do the type of work that we do in terms of mediumship meetings, but there are some centers that do receiving letters, receiving communications from superior spirits. Always depends on the seriousness of the work, right? So if the center is doing a serious work and is trying to help and assist those in need, the superior spirits will help and will come. If the center is, it's not careful and it's open to some strange practices that are not really connected to spiritism, and there are a lot of centers that do that, then you risk receiving mocking spirits to communicate. But most of the centers that I know do the type of work that we do.
So in those cases, they would practice the evocation of the spirit, like with I'm evoking grandma from whoever it is, or asking for the letter or communication to see if the person that passed is okay or not. So that's the line of working, basically, when they are.
Yeah, well, the work that Chico did with the letters, of course it was Chico, so, but he would receive letters, and then the letters would be read out loud for someone in the audience, and Chico would know for whom it was. But you cannot. A lot of people went to Chico and never received a letter from a loved one because there were like hundreds of people there, so he didn't receive hundreds of letters every night. But some people received more than one. So it is a work that Spiritism, we don't have anything against any type of spiritual work that is for the help and assistance of those in need. But we just have to advise of being careful with the seriousness of the work, right? Because there was one medium that was receiving letters and was becoming very popular in Brazil a couple of years ago, and it was found out later that a lot of the letters were fake. So you have to be careful always with that.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, let's go on, Philip.
The movement of objects is an already proven fact. What remains to be determined is whether or not there is a manifestation of intelligence behind this movement, and if so, what is the source of this intelligence? We are not talking about the intelligence displayed in the movement of certain objects, verbal communications, or even those written directly by the medium. These manifestations, evident for those who have thoroughly studied the matter, are not sufficiently independent of the will to make a new observer a believer. We will therefore only discuss writings obtained through an object equipped with a pencil, such as a basket or planchette, with the fingers of the medium placed upon the object in such a manner so as to preclude the possibility of exercising even the slightest influence on the drawing of the letters. Even if we assume that by some amazing stroke of ingenuity, a medium succeeds in deceiving the most acutely observant eye, how can we explain the nature of the communications when they transcend the medium's scope of knowledge? We are not talking about short, monosyllabic replies either, but many pages, as frequently happens, at incredible speeds. Sometimes the replies are spontaneous, while at other times they are on a specific subject. There are even instances in which poems of an elevated nature, utterly flawless in style, flow from the pen of an illiterate medium. What is even stranger is that these events are occurring across the globe and that the number of mediums is increasing. Are these facts real or not? We can only say, watch and see. There will be plenty of opportunities to do so, but observe often, for a long time, and according to the right conditions. How do our doubters reply in view of the evidence presented? They say that we are the victims of charlatans or illusions. First, charlatanism does not occur where there is no profit to be made. Charlatans do not practice their craft for free. When fraud is committed, it must be for the sake of a joke. But by what strange coincidence is there an arrangement between criminals from one end of the globe to the other to act in the same way, produce the same effects, and give replies regarding the same subjects in different languages that are identical in meaning, if not in words? How is it that sincere, honorable, and educated individuals can fall prey to such manipulation, and for what purpose? How is it that the patience and skill essential for carrying out such a deception are found even in young children? Mediums, if they are not passive instruments, must possess a high degree of skill and a vast array of knowledge, which is in direct contradiction with our usual expectations regarding certain ages and social standings. Our opponents maintain that if there is no fraud, both parties may be the victims of an illusion. It is only reasonable that the reputation of the witnesses are questioned when we decide the value of the evidence. It may be a fair question to ask whether Spiritism, with millions of supporters, recruits followers only among the ignorant. We understand the logic of doubt, given that the phenomena on which Spiritism is based are so extraordinary. However, what is not admissible is the habit of some skeptics in assuming that they have a monopoly on common sense, and the hasty manner in which they accuse anyone who holds a view that is contrary to their own of being either infatuated or stupid, regardless of the intellectual or moral worth of their opponents. Any observer can attest that the opinion of an enlightened individual who has seen, studied, and meditated on any subject for an extensive amount of time is always proof of the worth of that subject, or at least a presumption in its favor. After all, it has been able to capture the attention of esteemed scholars who, we may reasonably assume, have no interest in spreading untruths or wasting time on worthless matters.
So here Kardec talks a little bit about the communications themselves, right? So, of course, for an impartial observer that has no preconceived ideas, but wants to study and believe that it is something coming from an intelligence that is not the medium that is bringing the communication. He says that the beginning, like when they use the basket of the planchette, it's more convincing because message is written without the medium writing, but just putting their fingers on a planchette, and the planchette writes, it prevents fraud happening. But eventually, as we accept the idea that it is that there is a medium, there is an intermediary, Kardec talks about what about the nature of these communications. We're not talking about short replies, but many pages, and serious nature. And it's interesting when he mentions all of this, and we start thinking of Francisco Xavier, right? Because in the end, the first book he received was a book of poems, and from several different poets, different in style, different in subject, and if you compare the poems to the deceased poets, very similar in style. So it's very difficult to explain that. And then it continues. When you go to a medium that has very basic education, which was the case of Francisco Xavier again, that had finished only basic school, elementary school, he could receive books like Mechanisms of Mediumship, or the other books that he received with so much scientific information, so much knowledge, to believe that it comes from the mind of a medium that has limited intellectual abilities in terms of education, not in terms of the evolution, right? It's be very clear here. It will be very unlikely and very, strange. So, and then he goes on about, people that talk that still we have up to date, right? People saying that it's all manipulation, that is all charlatans, and one thing that is very important here that Kardec says from the beginning, why charlatans charge for their business, right? Because if they want to deceive, they want to profit from the deceased. To deceive and not making any profit, it's kind of strange. Of course, people will do things for anything for fame, because they will eventually profit, but that will eventually come back to haunt them. So, if a serious group is doing a serious work, is producing serious results, to try to find different explanations is more difficult than to find the obvious explanation, because normally the easiest explanation is the right one. And we keep trying to find, these people keep trying to find excuses, or try to find ways to say that is deceiving. And again, it reaches a point that is not really worth discussing with those people, because if they're not prepared to go deeper into study, there's nothing really that we can help them with. So, that's basically what Kardec says here, that if those think that the spirit, that this is deceiving, this is trickery, what can I do? 150 years later, we're still here, still receiving, we're still having a lot of help and assistance and moral teachings. And if they think that this is that it's part of some grand scheme or plan, there's nothing we can say. We go back to Chico Xavier, and he said, if those who accuse me are lying, I have nothing to say to them. if those who accuse me are right in what they are accusing, so I cannot really answer anything. So I better stay quiet. And I think that's, that's the position here. We do our part, seriously, continue to do our work. And for those that are prepared, fine. For those who are not, well, eventually will come their time. Okay, Renato, go ahead.
I was just thinking, would you say that there's people on the Spiritism that also they're not looking for money or fame or nothing, but they want to be admired, or they want to, because for some reason some people think being a medium is I don't know, something out of this world or something like that. So they have this thing that I want to be a medium. They think it's cool, whatever it is, and they might ended up doing as we mentioned before, fake things in order to be admired or to have a sense of belonging to a certain group and whatever. So so that also could hurt us on a sense of outsiders not taking the work that we do seriously, right?
Yeah, there is always this risk, but I would be more concerned with those that that think that they are receiving communications from evolved spirits, and that they are being deceived, and they don't see that they are being deceived, or they're being obsessed. And we have many cases of those that think that they are on the right path, or they are using the name of Spiritism for their own profit, in terms of not monetary profit, but their own agendas. So you see that out there, unfortunately. But mediums in search of fame, we will always find them. Are they going to receive what they are looking for? In the end, it's a risk, right? They will face difficulties eventually. I don't know what else to say here. Anything else to add?
No, not really. I think it is a problem for the doctrine itself, when people misuse mediumship and label themselves as a spiritist. It does create a problem of trust from the outside in. But I agree with John. It's much more important to be careful with people who are publishing things over there. That is not only truthful, that may cause damage to the trust with the doctrine, but more important, may give completely wrong information to people there, and these people may run around with this wrong information. That it's extremely dangerous, as we see now what the problem of fake news can create.
Yeah, in terms of publishing, a book or even become famous, at least the structure that I'm being taught on Spiritism, you can't just start to publish a book and say that you're a Spiritist.
Yeah.
There's a chain.
No, you can. I can.
That
Anyone can. That's the
Boss?
problem. That is the problem. Anyone can.
Yeah.
but I
That
mean,
is
to be,
that is exactly what the
Yes.
problem is.
I mean,
Yes.
you can do by yourself, but for example, here in the United States, you're not going to be recognized for the tri-state, for example, because in order to, for example, I don't know, Jusara publish a book, even though, you know, she's respected, I believe there is some sort of a council that will read it and they will evaluate it and see if it makes sense or not. And, you know, there is a, you know, a process that needs to be respected in order to that work also to be respected. You know, if let's say Renato that knows nothing publish a book, there's no credit on that. So that's why I'm saying that, you know, in terms of publishing large scale, these things, I was just wondering, you know, what's happening that there is no council or people or whatever that's preventing that to happen in order to be published in a serious circle, let's put it that way.
Oh, Spiritism has no pope. There is no one controlling what is out there, and you know, it's based. Anyone can publish whatever they want and call themselves whatever.
Exactly.
Now,
Yes.
are they going to receive the support of the organizations, the official organizations? Not necessarily, but even, you know, a group, let's say a group in Australia may accept a book that is not very good because they think it's good and they can use it, and there is no one is going to expel them from anywhere because there is no organization that controls this. So again, what Spiritism asks us to do is to reason, to read and see if it makes sense. Does it make sense? Or what you were reading, is it serious enough? Does it add to your knowledge? Because if it doesn't, it's better to reject 10 truths if you are in doubt than to accept one lie, right? Like Kardec said. So again, there are thousands of books being published in Brazil
Yeah.
by spirits or whatever names, and a lot of them are really garbage, but they are there. They are being published by publishers that are trying to make a profit. They are run by people that are not
Yeah.
spirits, but because they see a good source of revenue, they'll publish. You know,
there was parts that they find an audience.
Yeah.
There is an audience for them. That's the scary part.
But don't we have to think also about freedom of speech?
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
of course.
People can say whatever they want to say.
Of course. They can publish the ideas, yes.
And we respect that.
Of course.
And you know, even though it is misinformation, it's something kind of sacred because, you know, people have to have freedom of say whatever they want to say.
And again,
I know sometimes it's stupid. I agree. You know, I do agree. You know, there's a lot of information. Misinformation and disinformation because of that. That I agree. You know.
Yeah.
But it's
yeah. But, you know, I think the problem is
sometimes it's what sells. You know.
Yeah, the problem now that we have nowadays is much less the belief that the other side can communicate, but the quality of the communications from the other side. That's very doubtful and
Yes.
very. It can be very tricky to analyze.
Yeah, I was questioning because, you know, my dad lives in Brazil and, you know, he's a spiritist as well. And, you know, a few times he was mentioning some book that he was reading and I didn't know the author. And he's, you know, he was saying this, you know, it's really well written and it was easy to understand and everything. And I was like, you know what, that I think you should stick with the books of decodification. And then he told, oh, but they're too hard. I can't understand, and this and that. This is, you know, this guy explains in a way that is easier for me to grasp. So listen, if it is hard, it means that you need to study more. If it is hard, it means that you need to ask help. So only Chico has 400 something books. You don't need nothing out of this. And if you want to go outside Chico, there is a plenty of authors. They are recognized, and you don't need to look for trouble. And then he said, he asked me, so don't you think I should read something outside of those? I say no, because we have enough with them, and we don't know a third of that. So once you understand all of those books, then perhaps, you can go outside and judge for yourself if it's good or not. So that's why I was asking, because for me, I recommend people to just stay on the know. Don't go outside there. I'm not saying that it's not good or not, but again, I barely understand the 5 good books of the codification. So why am I going to somewhere else? So just a comment on that.
I agree 100% with you, Renato, and it's what we always say here. If you have 400 books by Chico, 200 books by Divaldo, 50 books by Raul Teixeira, plus Ivone Pereira, Zilda Gama, and even getting outside of Spiritism here, spiritualist books by Andrew Jackson, by serious researchers, even if you read Dr. Ian Stevenson. So why would you look for something that you're risking being misinformed? And you actually sound like Joana de Angelis, right? When she said, when they complained that her books were too difficult to read, and she said, listen, you need to improve your knowledge. I'm not going to lower my level to your level. You need to raise up your level to my level. And
Exactly. Very good.
Yeah, that's But again, the reality, we are lazy. We are all lazy. We want all chewed up for us and very easy to read and understand. We want one paragraph messages that will give us all the truths contained in one paragraph. We don't want to read a full book. And again, until we learn that we need more, that with shallow literature we're not going to evolve much. It will be what each one's decision to do their own to choose their own path. We cannot force anyone to read 600 pages of Paul and Stephen if they're willing to read 50 pages of a romance that that two people find love in the spiritual world and live ever happily after in 50 pages. When you think you're going to learn from that, good luck. Okay. Right? Okay, Philip, let's do one more.
Okay. Some doubts are more misleading than others, at least at first glance, because they are made by critical minds and based on observation. One of these objections is prompted by the fact that the language of spirits does not always seem worthy of the elevation attributed to supernatural beings. If detractors would take the trouble to read through the summary of Spiritism that we provided above, they would see that the spirits themselves readily admit they are not at all equal to one another in intellect or moral qualities. We should not accept everything said by the spirits as literal truth, and we must weigh the merit of their statements for ourselves. Of course, those who gather from this that we only communicate with immoral or deprived beings whose sole interest is to deceive us are not familiar with the messages obtained in the meetings regularly held with superior spirits. Otherwise, they would not come to such a conclusion. It is unfortunate that they have only seen, by pure chance, the worst side of the spirit world, because we do not want to presume that they only attract bad, crude, or lying spirits. rather than good ones. We merely suggest that, in some cases, their principles may not be strong enough to repel iniquity, and imperfect spirits take advantage of their curiosity, while higher spirits pull away from them. Judging the spirits based on these facts is as irrational as judging the character of an entire population by the actions of one small group of wild or scandalous individuals with whom educated and respectable citizens have no relation. Such individuals are like travelers who, when they enter a capital through one of its worst peripheral sections, judge all of its inhabitants by the values and language of a rough neighborhood. Just as in our own world, there are higher and lower classes of society in the spirit world. Therefore, it is necessary to study superior spirits in order to see that the other world is not solely populated by ignorant and cruel beings. When asked if superior spirits visit us, we reply, do not stay in the outskirts. See, observe, and judge. All the facts are within the reach of all, except those described by Jesus as having eyes and they do not see, ears and they do not hear. A variation of the same objection consists in attributing all spirit communications and the accompanying physical manifestations to the intervention of some diabolical power that assumes every form to effectively deceive us. We will not even dignify this theory with a response. The premise has been refuted by what we have already said, and we will only add that if such were the case, it would have to be admitted either that the devil is sometimes very wise, reasonable, and moral, and or else there are good devils. Indeed, is it possible that God allows only bad spirits to manifest to destroy us without giving us the counterbalance of good spirits? If not, we have admitted God's impotence. On the other hand, to believe that our Creator can but abstain from doing so contradicts belief in divine goodness. Both theories are equally blasphemous. Admitting the communication of vile spirits by default acknowledges the existence of spirit manifestations. If they exist, it can only be with the permission of God. And how can we morally believe that it is allowed to occur only for bad purpose? This theory contradicts both the simplest precepts of common sense and religion.
Okay, so here Kardec is talking about the communications themselves, the type of spirits that are communicating from the other side. And stressing the importance to understand that the spirits on the other side are just us that moved back to the spiritual world with our qualities and our imperfections. So to assume that the communications from the spiritual world will be only by elevated spirits or only by inferior spirits is really disregarding the justice of God, the creation, right? Because in the end, I think that this addresses something that we discussed a little bit, which is some evangelical churches believe that all communications come from the devil. And that's what Kardec argues here. Why would God allow only evil spirits to communicate? That wouldn't be
Aqui, os ouvintes ficam sem ninguém, né? Que é um grupo.
the justice of God's justice. That would question God's perfection. And on the other hand, if only perfect spirits or elevated spirits could communicate, what about the opportunity of of less evolved ones to communicate. That's not fair to them. That's not justice also. So what Kardec is saying here is that if you are receiving communications from only one type of spirit, wherever you are, there is a problem with the work that you are doing, because normally we would receive communications from all types of spirits. That's the work that once you open yourself to the spiritual world, you see communications from serious spirits and from suffering spirits, like we receive every week in our meetings. So the idea here is to really, in the end, to analyze the communications themselves, and not to have any preconceptions with the spirits that are communicating. Okay. Comments, questions here? Anything?
Hey, João.
Yeah.
Just curious about something, because on this realm of opportunity for both, we've seen psychophony from elevated spirits and not so elevated spirits, let's put that way. But at least myself, I haven't seen psychography.
Yeah.
Psychography from from bad spirits, like messages that are not, at least in a way, trying to help us in a way. So is that because of the type of the way the message delivered, or there's a reason behind it that I don't know, I haven't studied yet?
Elmo, you want to answer that?
Very good question.
I'll put it more precise for our type of mediumship meetings, right? Because I think that's where you're coming from. A suffering spirit is in need of a dialogue, is in need of receiving, and it's very hard to provide, to give with psychography. Now, a more elevated spirit is not in need of a dialogue, is not in need of anything from us, but it's offering us messages. So therefore, psychography for more evolved spirits makes completely sense, because they don't need our feedback. But in our work of rescue, when we're going to speak with suffering spirits, they are the one in need. So we need to have a means of interact with them, and then psychophony is the most efficacious means.
And actually, Renato, we received Jussara received a lot of testimonies, right, recently. So the spirits that have been helped or assisted and come back to give their testimony. These are not evolved spirits giving us messages or communications. These are just testimonies of their experience and their evolution, which is, it's kind of the intermediary. They are not in need of immediate help, but they are not really evolved spirits giving us uplifting messages. They are just giving their testimonies of their experiences.
Okay, so pretty much, so I'm clear here. For the suffering spirits, or the angry spirits, or the evil ones, and on that fall on them, on that class, for them, it's pretty much on the psychophony way of communicating. They're not gonna do any psychography, any painting, nothing different of that, right?
Not usually. And again, because it's for the purpose of the means of the communication, right? If the spirit is in need of receiving from us, a psychophony makes a lot of more sense. Then you can establish a dialogue. But if the spirit is coming to give us a message or a testimonium, there is no need for a dialogue. So psychography Now it makes more sense, especially because now it's in a piece of paper. It can be studied, analyzed, and see if the message has a valuable content that is worth to save, or is something that should be trashed when it's written. But if you go back to the times of Kardec, you go back to the book that I just finished studying, Heaven and Hell, all those communication was psychography from the suffering spirits, from the enlightened spirits, all of them, from the happy spirits, from the unhappy spirits, they were all via psychography. But now we know we developed a much better means to help spirits that is via psychophony. It is really for the purpose of the work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Almo.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're getting to the end of it.
Very good. Very good.
So before we ask Carol to do our prayer, this Saturday, the talk, the live talk from the United States Spiritist Federation is with Anísio Rezem from San Diego. He's going to talk, let's talk about the gospel. That's the subject. So he's going to talk about the gospel. We are studying Sunday on the way to the light and chapter 19. We start with chapter 19 and we are in the middle of it. Okay, that'll be Sunday. This Sunday at 11 a.m. So, following Sunday, we are going to conclude, me and Elmo, the study of mediumship of intelligent effects that we started in November. It's the second part of the lecture, mediumship of intelligent effects. Okay, Carol, can you do a final prayer, please?
Sure. Thank you, John and Elmo. Thank you. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks for the opportunity to be together again to study the Spirit's book. We are studying through our introduction of 8, 9, and 10 Roman numeral. We are grateful to know that we continuously respect others in their pursuit and their beliefs, but we also respect our own studies. We go for more of an in-depth, serious-minded attempt to focus in on these teachings. We want to attract the good spirits, and we want to receive very direct and very potent communications of truth. We are grateful to our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits who are guiding us this evening to receive these good messages and to receive the impressions of going forth as we can go more deeply into these studies. We are grateful to them. They are inspiring us and allowing us to go in a safe way to pursue these studies. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies, and our mindfulness. And may we also share as others are able to receive these studies. May we be generous in doing so, but also discerning at the same time. We continue to go deeper, and we continue to try to share the materials of Spiritism with others as they are able to receive. May we receive the love and light of Christ within us this week, and may we also help those around us to be more loving, to be more forgiving, to be more mindful, and to be more kind to those who are in our path. Those that are suffering, may we add to them our prayers, our wishes for them to find the goodness within to continue on their journey. We close now and ask for safety and protection as we go forth to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we go forth now as beacons of light, go forth now in peace. So be it.